Good morning, Stephen. Here we are walking through the gates to the Abbey Park Cemetery in Stoke Newington, looking for the grave of Alexander Isbister. Tell me why we are interested in this man.
Well, Alexander Isbister was the first headmaster of Stationers' Company School, and Robert Baines, who was practically the last headmaster, wrote a little booklet about him and uncovered a lot of information which we're going to reveal as we go along. But we're here because he is buried in this cemetery.
Let's carry on. So what was so special about this man?
Well, first of all, physically he was a very impressive person. He was 6'3" tall. He habitually smoked a hookah, and he had the most remarkable life in Canada and here. He was actually born in Canada in 1822. He was the son of Thomas Isbister, who lived in Orkney in Scotland, and his mother was Mary Kennedy, who was the daughter of Alexander Kennedy, who held a senior position in the Hudson's Bay Company. Kennedy's wife, who was Alexander Isbister's grandmother, was a full-blooded Cree Indian, and so he was effectively what was known in those days as a half-breed or a métis in Canada.
That's really helpful, Stephen. Tell me something about his education and his travels.
Well, Kennedy, his grandfather, paid for Alexander to attend school in Orkney from the age of 7, where he remained until his grandfather's death 7 years later. And then, aged 14, he returned to Canada to complete his education in the Red River settlement in what is now Manitoba. In the same year, his father, Thomas Isbister, was gored to death by a bull.
How did Isbister manage such a loss?
Well, he seemed to have taken it into his stride. At the age of 16, he joined the Hudson's Bay Company and led an adventurous life. In fact, he wrote up his adventures on the Peel River, and this was published in the Journal of the Royal Geographical Society of London, which was quite an achievement. But despite his abilities and aptitude for the job of fur trader, his chances of advancement in the company were limited because of his half-breed status. He then spent a year at home in the Red River settlement as a pupil teacher in his former school. His headmaster, however, encouraged him to apply to the University of Aberdeen, which he did, and he came back to Scotland as a result.
So now we're actually at the grave of the great man, and there's his inscription and those of his siblings and mother, Stephen.
So he returned to Scotland at the age of 20 to read theology at Aberdeen University, but his interest broadened and he covered topics as diverse as chemistry, maths, natural history and Greek. And his final year was actually at Edinburgh University, where he got an MA. Medicine and law also attracted him, and later in life he gained an LLB at London University, and he was called to the bar in Middle Temple when he was by then headmaster of Stationers' School, the first person of Native American heritage ever to be called to the bar. Now, to help his way through university, he published a series of articles relating to the Hudson's Bay territories. And all through his life he wrote articles and textbooks, and those in North America led to the award of the Albert Medal of the Royal Geographical Society.
He was clearly a multi-talented man with the world at his feet, what we would today call a polymath, and I expect unusual at the time for one of it with his background. What happened next?
Well, he eventually decided on a teaching career, but even so he remained attached to his Canadian antecedents, and for several years represented as a London agent the Red River settlement in a long-running dispute with the Hudson's Bay Company over the latter's monopoly in fur trading. This was ultimately successful in ways not envisaged by Isbister, though it took more than a decade from 1847 to achieve that result. Meanwhile, he had embarked on his teaching career.
I understand that Isbister wasn't just interested in teaching, he wanted to set standards.
Yes, indeed. Aside from actually teaching, he became involved in the so-called College of Preceptors. This was a body designed to institute some kind of teaching qualification and monitoring of school standards. Set up in 1846, Isbister became a member in 1851, eventually assuming a leading role, writing many textbooks ranging over the entire school syllabus. In 1862, he became editor of the Educational Times, the official organ of the college, in which post he remained for 20 years. He became dean of the college in 1872 and remained in that post for a decade. By the end of his tenure, the organisation and finances of the college were much improved, and a substantial advance towards funding a new building in Bloomsbury Square had been achieved. A marble bust of Isbister was subsequently placed in the entrance hall.
Tell me about the teaching positions Isbister was appointed to.
Well, in 1849, his first formal teaching post was the second master of the East Islington Proprietary School, and he became headmaster there in 1851. In 1855, he became head of the English department of the newly founded Jews College in Finsbury Square, and remained there until his appointment as the first headmaster of the Stationers' Company's School, out of 91 candidates. This dated from 1858, although the school didn't formally open until 1861.
So his influence went way beyond being in the classroom.
Yes, his teaching philosophy was expounded in his evidence to the Taunton Commission, which had been set up by Parliament in 1863 to inquire into secondary education. And some key points from that commission are reported in Robert Baines's booklet that I referred to earlier. He regarded the City of London School as a standard to which to aim, but in fact, during his tenure, one observer said that the school's education was as excellent as that of any school in the country, not excluding Eton and Winchester.
Isbister's talents were many, but it is his life of dedication to education that thousands of boys were to benefit from.
Indeed, he managed to combine the duties of headmaster and Dean of College of Preceptors and editor of the Educational Times, while writing no fewer than 23 textbooks on a wide range of subjects. As a result, as a former pupil recalled, he seldom appeared in school. Yet his tenure as headmaster of Stationers was undoubtedly a success, and set the school on the outstanding path which was to follow. His name is memorialised in several locations in Manitoba, and there exists a photograph of him and a portrait, both located in Manitoba. He retired in 1880 and died in 1883, aged only 61. He never married, but made a home in Barnsbury for his mother and one of his sisters. And he is buried in Abney Park Cemetery, where we are now standing.